It's a crime that may be unfamiliar, but one every parent needs to hear, because investigators say they believe it pushed a teenager to suicide. We told you about Bryce Tate back in November. His family says he wasn't bullied, he didn't struggle with mental health, he had a great relationship with him. But in less than 3 hours after receiving a text message, by all accounts, that happy 15-year-old had taken his own life. Tonight, for the first time, his father is sharing the devastating details and the conversation he believes every parent needs to have. This is Bryce's story, text message tragedy.
Just amazing, energetic, always smiling, full of energy, goofy, dancing.
From toddler
come towards us. Yeah.
to teenager.
Get a video, get a video, get a video. It's gonna be forever, or it's gonna go down in flames.
Bryce Tate was the center of his parents' world.
It was the greatest thing in the world to be able to get home and see his smiling face and be able to pick him up and hug and kiss him and wrestle him, and it was so much fun.
Smart.
What's 9 times 7?
9 times 7, 63.
Yep.
Happy. Thriving.
Ooh, baby, I've been waiting for these.
It's nothing but good memories and that we're thankful for.
Thankful but broken, because their beloved Bryce, just a sophomore at Nitro High School, never made it past the age of 15. The Kanawha County Sheriff's Department says they are investigating the death of a teenager as a case of sextortion. The story shocked the community, but no one more in disbelief than Bryce's parents.
But it was just a normal day, so my son tells my wife, hey, I'm going to go take a shower. Just normal conversations. There was no red flags. There was nothing that would make you question if there was something going on.
On that evening of November 6th, what Amanda didn't know, couldn't have known, was that her son had received a random text message after school when he was working out at the gym from someone claiming to be a teenage girl interested in Bryce. And while he had never met or spoken with the girl, she had information about him that was legit. So to Bryce, it probably seemed real. The time of the first text was just after 4:30 p.m. The conversation continued at the gym, and as Bryce's mom, Amanda, picked him up and drove him home.
He went and took the shower. He went back outside and played basketball. Then my wife, on the camera, she went outside and was talking with my son, checked the mail, and said, hey, Bryce, I'm going to go take a bath. Would you like to use the restroom or anything? Because we've only got one bathroom in the house. Mm-hmm. He said, oh, no, I'm fine. And she said, okay, well, it's getting cold out here. You might want to get a jacket on. He said, yeah, it is getting cold. So my wife went into the bath, take a bath, and at 7:10, I can see my son on the camera going inside. And around 7:25, 7:27, somewhere in that area, my wife heard a loud noise. And so she tried yelling for him multiple times with no response. And she ends up calling me while she was in the bathtub. And was like, hey, can you try to get a hold of Bryce? I heard a loud noise in here, and he's not answering. And so naturally, I tried calling him, and he didn't answer. That's when I got onto the camera app, and I noticed that he did go inside at 7:10. So I called her back. I said, well, Amanda, I saw him go inside. He's home. He's there somewhere. I was like, you might need to get out of the bath and go check. He might have fell. Something might have broke, because that was so far outside of what I would imagine could have happened. I mean, that's like the furthest thing that I would have thought. And we've got hardwood floors in the house, and he would dribble his basketball throughout the house sometimes.
Maybe broken a plate
or
something
broken,
like
whatever,
that.
So she gets out of the bath, and she calls me, and she's like, I'm trying to find him, and she goes into his bedroom, and he's not there. And then she goes outside, and she's like, he's not outside. And I said, well, maybe check the man cave. And she walks into the man cave, and that's where she finds him, and I hear her screaming on the phone.
She was on the phone with you at the time,
sir.
When she found him.
Yeah. And I hear her screams, and she's just screaming for me to get there to help and telling Bryce to come back to her.
And what are you thinking at the time? Like, you're still not thinking that's what happened.
Well, when I heard
something
the screams,
terrible, but
when I heard the screams, I kind of put it together, like she heard a loud noise, and hearing her scream.
Like you've never heard her scream before?
No, sir. And so hearing those screams across the phone, I kind of imagined what it was, and she hung up on me. Mm-hmm. And naturally, I called 911. Mm-hmm. And I just started giving my address. I said, please get there fast.
And you're still at work?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I said, my wife and my son need help. I started giving my address, and I was yelling, and they had mentioned that they're on the phone with my wife as well, and they were on their way, so I left work, and I got there as fast as I could. In my mind, as his father, I felt like if I would have got there sooner, I could have done something.
But of course, there was nothing Adam or anyone could have done. The sound Amanda heard was a gunshot. Bryce was gone. Over the next 12 days, through Bryce's funeral and the investigation into his death, Adam and Amanda could think of no earthly reason why their son would ever have done something like this.
This crime happened in such a short period of time. We're talking a 3-hour period. My son didn't struggle with mental health. He wasn't bullied. There was no heartbreak. He would have otherwise never done something like this.
Then, nearly 2 weeks after their son's death, some answers. Detectives asked the Tates to come down to the sheriff's department.
And they performed the forensics audit on his phone. And they told us that he was a victim of sextortion. Well, we had no idea. We had never heard the term sextortion before, so they kind of explained it to us.
And walked you through it.
Walked us through what it was,
okay.
And it was nice getting the clarity to understand what had happened to our son, because it was driving us crazy trying to piece it together.
Naturally.
Nothing was adding up, and it kept leading to a dead end. So it was nice to get that answer, but then more questions came up, like, what is sextortion?
Suddenly, Adam and Amanda were on a crash course learning all about sextortion. Deputies and the FBI believe the person Bryce had been texting was actually a professional extortionist, playing the role of a teenage girl. When Bryce was enticed to send compromising pictures of himself after receiving similar pictures of a girl from the other number, the extortionist revealed himself. He threatened to ruin not just Bryce's life, but his whole family's by publicly releasing the images Bryce had sent unless he paid a ransom.
They wanted $500. My son offered them $30. He only had $30, and he offered that to him, and that wasn't enough money. So the next thing that they do is they coerce him into taking their own lives. So this isn't something that he just thought of on his own. They coach him into that. So
you feel like they put the gun in his hand?
Without a doubt. And then they hit him with a barrage of text messages. We're talking 120 text messages in 20 minutes. So a text message every 10 seconds. But they keep them engaged by design to keep them in that panic. And they put this imaginary timer, like if you don't do this within this amount of time, all these images will be released, and they just keep them in a state of panic. And it's psychological warfare. They've got it scripted. They know how to attack these innocent children, to throw them into an extreme panic, and they pile it on. I mean, they max pressure.
It's that max pressure and psychological warfare that Adam says becomes all too consuming for kids, unable to put down the phone and see a way out. That's why Adam says it's so important for parents to speak with their children.
Stop believing that this can't happen to your family, because it can. If it can happen to my family, it can happen to yours. So please take a moment and just simply have a conversation with your kid. I mean, it takes 5 minutes, but have that conversation. Because here's the thing, you're equipping them with a defense mechanism to fight against this crime that's these people are targeting our kids, So the only way to equip them with a defense is by having that conversation.
A conversation in his son's name, believing, even in death, Bryce's memory could save lives.
My son was the biggest blessing of my lifetime. For my wife and I, and anybody that had the privilege of knowing my son, he was a blessing. And what I refuse to do, what I will not allow happen, is these cowards write the ending to my son's story. That will not happen.
Amanda told Adam she's just not ready yet to open up publicly about what happened. But the Tates now say they're on a mission to prevent other families from dealing with this tragedy. When Adam first went public on Facebook about their son's victimization, the post went viral, reaching more than 35 million people worldwide. Since then, they set up a website and joined a nationwide support group of parents who've lost their children to this crime. They've also worked with West Virginia lawmakers on an anti-sextortion bill that has unanimous bipartisan support. Adam and Amanda say the most important part of that bill is an education component involving the state school board, where students will learn how to avoid becoming victims, thus building a legacy in their son's name.